So I got a bit of a cold at the moment. You can probably hear it in my voice. You can definitely hear it in my voice. I can hear it in my voice. The rain with a coil has been a bit of a challenge to find that sweet spot. So I got the light tune on the compression on that rear shock, which was, when I got it, it was the regular tune, which was harsh. Maybe I could have just run a softer spring rate and dealt with it. I've gone the lighter tune, which is quite light. Maybe I could go in between the light and the mid, or the low and the mid tune on that compression on the Marzocchi Bomber. But I also thought maybe I need a progressive spring. So I got an MRP 300. They say it's a 300 to 380. Now, I got a 350 Fox on there right now, and I can bottom it out. I can clap it, but it's got a good amount of resistance, and it's a real consistent compression. It doesn't disappear, and it doesn't ramp too much. It's I think the Fox springs feel really, really good. 450. I got a 350. I got a 343 Olin's as well. That feels really good. It's got that ride height. Again, I can clap it. Not quite where I want it to be. Maybe run this with 6 or 7, maybe 7 clicks of compression. That orange one with 6 clicks of compression feels quite good. 375, I can't bottom out on that shock. Definitely can't bottom it out. But it's a little too tall. So the ride height, and it's just a little too firm off the top. So it doesn't handle that well and quite choppy. So 375's out of the question. 300 to 380, I thought maybe it's going to be a bit soft, a little bit deep in the sag. But with the 380 at the end, I shouldn't be clapping it. So I started with half a turn of preload on that shock, clapping like just clapping. So I went up to a turn of preload, clapping, turn and a half of preload, clapping, 2 turns of preload, still clapping, still quite low, but getting closer to being killer. So I think just from that test, it's definitely not 300 to 380. If you're looking at, I need that, I'm running a 350 and I just need a little bit more bottom out support, this isn't going to help you. I think this is more like a 320 to 340. Like it does ramp, or 320 to 350 maybe. Nah, because that 350, if I was to put 2 turns of preload on that 350, there's no way I'm clapping it. I'm definitely not clapping it. But 2 turns on this, I'm still clapping. So, but when I put it on the Banshee, so on the Banshee I run a 297 Olin spring, and I can clap it, but the ride height's killer. It's really, really good. It's just a little weak on the hard hits. On the Cane Creek shock is probably the best match for that. I don't know. It's not the best. No, I won't say that. I think the Air Shock's still the best match for that bike. With this on the Banshee, I was heaps higher in the sag. So it's at least a 320, equivalent to a 320 Olin's to start, at the start. And then only ramps up a little bit. It really only ramps up a little bit. It might even be a 330 to 3... No, I don't know. It's really hard to say, but it's not a big progressive ramp. It's certainly not a big progressive ramp. It's just a stiff spring. It feels like quite a stiff spring. Comparing this bike, air versus coil, we've done a run. We done a little bit of a play around the other day. I think I'm going to end up with a good coil setup on it. I really want that consistency out the back. The only reason I go coil, it's not because it's smoother or more plush or anything like that. It's none of that. It's literally don't have to check the air pressure. It's all it is. I don't care about anything else. The performance I get out of this shock is when it's at the right pressure. So the other day when I did the air versus coil test, this was too stiff. And I'd lost a couple of kilos as well. So maybe I was just a little heavy on my preferred as well. But you ramp that back down to, right now I'd be running 145, 144 PSI in this with the 0.6 token, and it is killer. It's excellent. No bottom outs, really good ramp up, great ride height, real soft and supple. But if it warms up 5 degrees, your shock feels different. If it cools down 5 degrees, your shock feels different. So, which means your bike handles different, and that's not acceptable, I don't think. I could start running nitrogen in the air cans, and that would minimize that the variation, but I don't know if it would eliminate it completely. Maybe that's something to look at, but I'm hoping to get a good coil spring setup. But again, back to the MRP progressive rate. It's not very progressive. It might be a little bit progressive, but it's still going to be really hard. If you're like me and you're real finicky with your setup and you want your setup to be right, max confidence, max safety, I guess, you're going to have to play around a fair bit. And there's really not much to choose from in the way of this. So you got the progressive rate from MRP, you got the progressive rate from DVO, and you got the progressive rate from Cane Creek. I'm not sure if anyone else does it, but there's quite big increments between the rates. Heaps of people say just get a Sprindex, then you can dial it right in. Like, I don't need a Sprindex because I've got 100 different springs. I've got all the different spring sizes, so I can go a spring, work out the preload to get that exact ride height and support and resistance. So a Sprindex can help you for sure, definitely can help you, but it's not the direction I need to go in, I don't think. So yeah, progressive, not progressive enough maybe, or just not the right spring rate. I probably need on this bike, relative to the numbers on here, relative to the 300, I would need a 325 progressive, 325 to 400, I think, in order for it to work on that bike. Or maybe even closer to it. I don't know. I really don't know, because it doesn't feel much more progressive on that bike, but on the Banshee it feels like a way stiffer spring than a 300. And it starts taller. So it's definitely not a 300. It's definitely not a 300 start. Yeah, hard to say that I recommend these springs yet, just because of that. Where do you go? Like, is the 400 going to be a little light? How do I calibrate this for recommending them to people? Do I say, right, you're on a 400 spring right now, and you think it's perfect, but you're just kissing the bottom too much. You're just kissing the bottom all the time. Do I say go a 400 plus Marzocchi, 400 plus MRP? I don't think so. No, I think you'd want to go a 375 plus maybe. But then you can't find that. You can't get that. They've only got like certain increments. So bit of a tricky one. After all this time playing with air and coils and going back and forth and different bikes and the hassle of they say set and forget with Coil, but it's not set and forget. It's set. Find, go through spring rates, find that, or you can just set and get and adapt and forget. You could always do that as well. But for me, I like to find the sweet spot on every bike. I like to find that perfect ride height where it balances the pressure between the front and the rear, tires and suspension, and it feels confident. It feels the easiest to ride. So I'm not sure about these, and I'm not sure about the Coil yet on the Rain. I need to ride it and see how it feels. That 350, the 343 felt good. That's what I tested it with when we did the back to back. So I guess we'll just wait and see. We'll just keep kicking on and see how we go. But for now, for all out performance and confidence on this bike, the right setup with this is my preferred. So Trail specific as well. Like Moriata is a high speed. Your bike will feel completely different at Moriata than it does at, say, 4 weeks or mainline DH at Waterfall Gully. Steeper, more technical, slower, hard hits like compressions and stuff. Whereas Moriata's fast, you're hitting things fast, you're not really compressing too many times, lots of smooth in between the fast stuff, not too many braking bumps. So hard to compare. But the Fox Springs are the best, in my opinion. They feel the best. The RockShox Springs feel quite good, but I think the Fox Springs are the best. They're light and they stand out a bit as well. So if you're in the market, have a real good think about it. Because this cost me $210. So investments, all these springs have cost me. That's a $150 spring. That's a $200 spring. Like, it is a very expensive process of set and forget, for sure. But once you got it, you got it. I'm also lending these springs out, $20 each. Have them for a week or up to a fortnight. Find your spring rate and give them back to me once you know. That way you can spend time bouncing around on the spring rate, different spring rates, before you commit any real money to it. So you're not going through this. Bought one, no, it wasn't right. Bought another one, no, we're not quite right. And then bought a third one, finally I'm at the sweet spot. So you, instead of being $600 in, you could be $40 in with 2 springs and get your spring rate exactly what you want and then buy one. So it's cost you $240 in the process of getting the perfect setup instead of costing you $600 to get the perfect setup. And it's always bike specific. Some bikes just don't want to play with a coil. Some bikes are literally, a lot of modern bikes are built around an air shock now, which give up on that for sure. We can't, I don't like the inconsistency of an air shock, but I love the performance. There's no doubt about it. If you're on a race and you want to go fast and your bike's not built around a coil, you'd go an air shock for sure. Anyway, that's enough. I got a new mic as well, so I hope this sounds all right. I've been playing around with mics and I've never been able to get something decent. I keep going, poor man pays twice. I keep going kind of cheaper stuff, but yeah. What do you think?